Alright, in this video today I'm going to show you how to use the green screen effect in Adobe Premiere Pro, and this will work in Elements or any other version as well. So I'm going to import my objects. I've got a few videos and some music, and make sure these aren't on your network drive. They got to be on your hard disk. But let's take the first thing. What I'm going to do is grab the loop and put that in. By the way, I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see this a little better. Basically, it's just a rotating earth like you'd see on some sort of newscast. And then I'm going to put my news person in front of it. And just like any of the layers in Photoshop or anything else, there is, if it's on top, it'll show. So if this is on top, that'll show. But with the green screen, what it allows you to do is to remove the green and keep everything else. So I'm going to go to Effects here in the left corner and go to Video Effects, Keying, and then I'm going to use Chroma Key. I'm going to drop that on top of it. And it doesn't really seem to do much, but if I go to Effects Controls now, what that'll show is you have this Chroma Key option, and if and again I have to do it on that layer, but if I use my little eyedropper, I'm going to grab a green that's, and you can see it's kind of showing through, but it's only showing the exact green. So what you need to do is turn up your similarity, and I'm going to go up to like 25. If you go too high, it just disappears, but I'll go to like 25, and you can actually just click in there and type it in as well. And then the blend as well. So you probably can't see it very well, but there's actually kind of like a green tinge around all the objects. So if you turn up the blend some, like 20, and again, if you go too much, it'll disappear. But if I go like 25 and 20, and then I can also turn my smoothing on to high, it should give a pretty good image to it. So that way it looks like the person's actually in front of the newsroom logo thing spinning in the back. So it looks pretty good. And great, so that looks pretty good. So now, one thing I would want to do is, like, you can see that, you know, this, like right here, I start getting out of the chair. Maybe what I'd want to do is cut it here. So if you don't remember, it's Control K, and I can just cut that. Or another way to do this is also to just move it into that spot. And you can see right now the green screen's still gone, but there's no loop under it. So I'm going to also copy and paste this loop in. Control C for copy, Control V to paste. And you know, I can go to the end of this clip here, do Control K again, and I can just click on this and delete it. And it looks pretty good. And it should be pretty seamless because I think the loop starts and ends at the same spot, so it'll look fine. And then just like anything else, it kind of just ends abruptly. So what I can do is I can also go to Video Transitions and this dissolve, and I can dip to black on both of these. And that way they'll all both exit the same way, basically. They'll look the same that way. And you can do it in the front as well. Alright. And you can control the length or duration of the transition. Right now it's 1 second, but you can actually click on that and make it even shorter if you'd like. So that way something can come in first. Like, so right now, he comes in first, and then the background kind of lights up after. So kind of cool little effect. And you can have more than just these two videos. You can put more on there. So I'm going to go back to my project file here, and that's when I'm going to bring this crazy man in and bring that in. And so if you look at this timeline, you can see that the crazy man video is actually quite a bit longer. And there's extra on here, so you know, just I would go somewhere in here, delete some of this. And if I go to the beginning, I can kind of see. And by the way, it's much easier just to grab this thing and go left and right. You know, find the part where he starts to come on the camera first, and you want to delete everything before that. All right. Okay, so like right now, this video takes up the entire screen, and you do want it on the top layer because you want it in front of everything else, but it's too large. So if you go and look at that motion, there's scale and position in there. But what we can do is just you know, use the arrow keys here, or I'm sorry, just grab it by the corners, make it a little bit smaller, something like that looks pretty good. And you know, that way it's playing while the person's talking about this crazy person. But you don't actually want it to happen at that point, so you can also just kind of move it down the line. So when he starts talking about it, they can pop in. Now, popping in is just fine. It's called a, you know, just a cut shot, or just a cut. But what we can also do is add another transition. So there's all these different transitions. Just play with them if you want. I'm just going to grab a simple stretch, and there's a stretch right there. And I'm going to put it on top of that. So that way it kind of just comes in from the side, as you know, something like that. Now you don't want to just be like distracting for no reason, but I'm just kind of showing you to throw that in there. That's how you do that, okay? And again, I'd probably want to make this so, you know, this ends before. That way, when he's saying goodbye, it's, you know, it's already cutting out. We don't need all of that. So, and I could probably have it stretch out too if I want. You know, if I put it at the end, it'll kind of stretch away as well as it goes. It'll disappear the same way. Or you could do it as dissolve or whatever you want. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's talk about sound. So, by the way, if you don't want these things up, just close them if you don't need them. But if I go and I'm going to look at the sound now. The sound is always down here. The video is up here. And if we look, there's audio for the news, the Crazy Man, and the loop. There's actually no sound for loop, so I'm going to go to unlink audio and video. And if I click off it, what that allows me to do is I can then delete it. Okay. And by the way, look, I didn't unlink this one, so if I hit delete, it also deletes the loop, and I don't want to do that. So again, right click, unlink audio and video. And what that allows me to do is move this around independent from the video. So like if your sound isn't matching up, you can get rid of it, or I can just delete it because I don't need it anyways. Okay, and now there's actually this Crazy Man that comes on. He also isn't really being used, so I can just unlink audio and I can delete that as well. Not a big deal. This first clip is very quiet compared to the music we're about to put in. So what I would suggest is right-clicking on this and go to Audio Gain, and let's bump that up like to 15 and hit OK. And you can listen to see what that sounds like.
Welcome to Headline News.
I don't know how well my mic is picking that up, but it sounds all right. It's got some noise in the background, but no big deal. And if I go back to my test project, I can bring in my music. I'm just going to stretch this down. And right now, this music is much louder than the person. So what I can do there is, well, first you could go on here and go to audio gain and actually go negative instead. So let's just turn it down by like 6 or so first. And then I do want to cut this. And by the way, if you do a Control K, it cuts everything. We don't really need to do that. We don't really want to do that. So another way you can do that is also you can grab your little razor tool here and cut it in that spot, and that works fine too. And by the way, if you let's say you got rid of let's say you got rid of this one right here, you can still pull this one to whatever length you want. It'll just go back to the original file and add whatever's not there, if that makes sense to you. But I do want that music to start in. So what I can also do is change this audio. I'm going to drop this down, and I control the audio in here. So, and I don't know if I did this in the last video or not, but basically you show clip flame or show track volume. I'll do clip, and I can set it so, I'm sorry, track volume. If I make a keyframe, this one will start at nothing. So basically it's silent. And then we can kind of have it come in a little bit. You can have it get a little bit louder. I don't want to go all the way though. You can set it to like -6. And then you can have it fade out. So I set another spot and drag it all the way down to the ground. So let's see what that sounds like.
Welcome to Headline News. Today
That sounds alright. And maybe I'd probably want to fade it out to nothing. You probably do want a little bit of sound and then fade it out gradually. And then out here it's completely gone then. You play around with it, see what works for you. And once it's faded out completely, by the way, I can show hide keyframes because I don't need it anymore. And I can drag this because I know it's silent, or it gets silent at that point. But then he's saying, well, that's all the news for today, blah, blah, blah. Then I can take this part and I can bring this clip in again. And this one fades out on its own, so that's nice to have. And so I'm just going to drag it to that spot. And again, I'm going to do some keyframes here. So I'm going to go to clip, or I can do track volume, that's fine. Show track volume. And from that point, it's going to get a little bit louder. Another keyframe, and I can just kind of drag it up to a little bit, like -6 or 10, something like that. See what that sounds like.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.
There you go. So pretty much that's it for the sound and video part of it. Then we're going to add titles, all right? But I think I'm going to keep that for a separate video. So watch the next video to show how to put titles in and such.